we use calorimetry in order to measure the specific heat for any substance, like what you are supposed to do in the first lab experiment. You are supposed to measure the specific heat for few samples. So here we have a jacket for the calorimeter that ideally should prevent heat leakage. And inside, usually we have water, and we have a thermometer to measure the temperature. We have a stirrer to ease the mixing here. And we have the unknown sample. So usually, from knowing the temperature of the water before and the temperature after having the sample, and applying the conservation of energy principle, we will be able to calculate the specific heat for the unknown object. In calorimetry, the total change in energy is assumed to be zero. That is to say, the heat loss by the hot object is equal to the heat gain by the cold object. Okay? So if you add the heat loss to the heat gained by the cold object, they should add to zero. What remains is just to calculate Q hot and Q cold for the various components of the system. For example, if the temperature of the calorimeter here is 25, the temperature of the water 40 degrees, the temperature of aluminum 37, assuming the sample to be aluminum. So the quantity of heat gained or lost by any of these three materials can be calculated using this same equation. Q equals mc delta T, and delta T is the difference between the final temperature and the initial temperature. So we calculate Q for each one of these materials, and then we add all values for Q. It should be zero because energy is conserved. Whatever heat gains at one side, there is heat loss on the other side. So when we add all heat energies, they should add to zero. Another process when we study thermal processes is the phase change, like ice melting into water or water evaporating into a steam. We call these phase change. Here, phase change occurs at constant temperature. Like ice, if it is at 0 degree, it will continue to be at 0 degree until it melts completely into water at 0 degree. So it doesn't involve change in temperature here. It only involves transfer of heat, and this energy is used by the molecules and atoms of the ice. They will be energized and they will melt down. They will change their phase. To calculate the quantity of heat for phase transformation, we use this equation. Q equals mL. M is the mass, and L is a constant. We call it latent heat of a transformation. If it is melting down, like melting ice, it would be latent heat of fusion, as we call it, or melting. If it is water changing to steam, or liquid in general changing into steam, then we call it the latent heat of vaporization. In this table, you see some latent heats of fusion and vaporizations for some common materials. For water, melting point is 0 degrees Celsius, so it melts down, it changes from solid ice into liquid water at 0 degrees Celsius. The latent heat is 3.33 by 10 to the power 5. This means to melt down 1 kilogram of ice, you will need 3.33 by 10 to the power 5 joule of energy. This is the meaning of latent heat. Then for vaporization, if you have 1 kilogram of water and you want to boil it up, you want to convert it into vapor, into steam, you will need that much of energy, 2.26 multiplied by 10 to the power 6, because the latent heat of vaporization. And you can check the other materials. Each material has its own melting point at which the transformation occurs, and it has its own latent heat of fusion and latent heat of vaporization. Here you see the CGS units. Rather than joule per kilogram, you have calorie per gram. Those textbooks, these units are still in usage. Most of the time, we are interested in water. So for water, latent heat of fusion is 3.33 by 10 to the power 5, and latent heat of vaporization is 2.26 by 10 to the power 6. We are using joule per kilogram. This is the SI units for the latent heat. Let's consider this example here in more details so that we understand this game. We have 1 gram of ice at minus 30 degrees Celsius, and it has gone through this sequence of processes. So let's understand it together. First, ice temperature is raised from minus 30 to 0. This is the first process. Then at 0 degree, this is the melting point. The temperature is maintained fixed, continues 0, as ice melts down and change phase from solid into liquid. So now in this region, you have a mixture of ice and water, both at 0 degree. After taking 396 joule, the ice is completely melted down, and now it is at 0 degree. If the heating continues, the water temperature will start rising, and as long the heating is continuing, the temperature will continue to rise until it reaches 100 degrees Celsius. At 100 degrees Celsius, another phase transformation occurs. At 100 degrees Celsius, water starts evaporating, changing into steam. So the temperature will continue to be 100 degrees Celsius as water takes more and more energy until it is completely transformed into steam. Once we reach this point, water is all steam. The last process, process E, now you are talking about changing the temperature of steam. For example, if we want to calculate the temperature when steam temperature changes from 100 to 120, then we have to apply the equation for a quantity of heat, Q equals mc delta T, and C is the specific heat for steam, and delta T is 20 degrees. From 100 to 120, that would be 20 degrees. So let's discuss these steps in more details. For the first process, mass of ice multiplied by specific heat of ice multiplied by the change in temperature. This is the mass of ice, 1 gram. This is specific heat of ice. And this is the change in temperature from -30 to 0, it is 30. So here we need 62.7 joules for this first process. Then for the second process, we need to melt down the ice. We need to change it from solid ice into liquid water. The temperature here is fixed at 0 degrees. So both the ice phase and the water phase, both of them continue to be at 0 degree. To calculate the needed energy, we apply the equation for the latent heat, mLF. Again, M is 1 gram, and if the latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.33 by 10 to the power 5, so this is 333 joules. We add to 333 the needed 63 before. Together, now the energy needed, the total up to this point is 396. Then for this process C, we are talking about water changing from 0 Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. The energy Q equals mc water multiplied by delta T. M is 1 gram, and C for water 4.186, which is approximately 4.19 by 10 to the power 3 joule per kilogram degree Celsius. And the change in temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. So we will need that much energy. You can add it to 396. The total now becomes 850 up to this point. We continue now process. This is process D. Water now and steam both coexist at 100 degrees. So we need to calculate the energy needed to convert 1 gram at 100 degrees Celsius from liquid phase into steam phase. We use the equation for the latent heat, Q equals mLV. This is the mass, and this is the latent heat of vaporization. So the energy needed to convert from liquid phase to steam phase is 2.26 by 10 to the power 3 joule. The last process is process E, where the steam now will be heated from 100 degrees Celsius to 120 degrees Celsius. So here we apply the first equation, Q equals mc delta T, and C now is C for steam, and delta T is 20 degrees. Mass, as before, 1 gram, which is 1 by 10 to the minus 3 kilograms. We have to use SI units all the way. C for steam, 2010, which is 2.01 by 10 to the power 3. And delta T is 20. This is 40.2 joules. So now we have these 5 processes, process A, process B, process C, process D, and process E. The total energy involved, the total energy needed, 62.7 for the first process, 333 joules for the second process, 419 for the third process, then 2,260 for the fourth process, and finally 40.2 joules for the last process. We add them, we get the total energy 3,110 joules. As you can see, it is straightforward to calculate the quantity of heat energy. You always will be dealing with these two equations, Q equals mc delta T when there is a temperature change, or Q equals mL when there is phase transformation. Temperature will not change, but the phase of the substance will change. When we think of the equilibrium system, usually you may found the substance in one phase, or in two phases in equilibrium, or in three phases. Like here, you have water in liquid phase, you have it in solid phase, and in the atmosphere, it is in vapor. So we can think of the phase changes in terms of the rearrangement of molecules based on the energy added. The more energy you add, the molecule becomes more energetic, and this may change their phase from solid into liquid, or from liquid into vapor. The opposite is true. If you take energy from the molecules, then you can convert gas into liquid. If you take more energy, you can also convert liquid into solid. So both the process and its reverse are possible. Check your understanding. Calculate the slopes for the A, C, and E portions of the figure. Then rank the slopes from least to greatest. As you know from math, slope is equal to the rise divided by the run. Like here, if we want slope for this process, the rise from 0 here to 100 at the boiling point. The rise is 100, okay, and the run is this. The run, you need to take 815 minus 396, divide the rise by the run, you get the slope for this process. And we do the same for process A and also for process E. So you need to do the math with your calculators, and once you completed this activity, you will arrive at this answer, okay? Because the slopes are proportional to the reciprocal of the specific heat. So the larger specific heat results in the smaller slope. Water, process C, this one will have the smaller slope. Then this comes next, and this comes third in this comparison. To recap what we learned so far, when we solve problems, we'll be dealing with these two equations. When you have temperature change, then Q is mc delta T. When you have phase change, Q is mL. And this can be positive or negative depending on which way we are going. Are we going from water into vapor or from water into ice? Okay, this will determine the sign here. Then you need to apply the conservation of energy principle. Heat loss equals heat gain, or the total change in the heat energy is 0, and to apply algebra to solve for the unknown quantity. This is the strategy that we will apply in calorimetry that involves both temperature change and phase change.